Hello guys, welcome back. In this video, let us analyze some data engineering associate practice exam questions. So let's see one question. That is, a retail company uses Amazon Aurora to manage our data inventory. So what are the data inventory that this retail company has? That data will be managed under what? Amazon Aurora. Okay. The company's Aurora DB cluster resides in private subnet. So this what are the Aurora cluster or database that this retail company is using to store its data that is presented where inside our private subnet. Okay, a team member has created a lambda function to manage inventory levels within your cluster, within your database cluster, Aurora database cluster. Okay, to to manage our inventory levels, we're using one lambda function. Okay. To maintain data security, the company wants to ensure that Lambda function can access Aurora database cluster only through private network. So, what steps should be taken to enable private connectivity for Lambda function to the Aurora DB cluster with minimal administrative effort? So, the question is, there is a retail company and it has some inventory data. So to manage that data, they put the data inside Aurora, Amazon Aurora, where this Amazon Aurora present under private subnet. And to manage the inventory present under Amazon Aurora, where this Aurora present in the private subnet, we are using Lambda function. By using this Lambda function only, we are connecting to Aurora and then we are managing our inventory data. So now the requirement of company is we need to connect to this Aurora by using this Lambda using private network only. Using private network only. So what are the best options that we need to choose here? So you can see we have few options are there. These are the options. First one is enable private subnet DNS feature for Aurora database cluster endpoint. This is not the answer. And let us move to next option. That is modify the security groups of Aurora cluster to allow incoming connections on appropriate port of Lambda function. So might be this maybe answer. And let's move the next option. Develop a Lambda function in public subnet and configure the NAT gateway for outbound connections. So it was telling that we need to create a Lambda function and we again using a public subnet to connect to this Aurora. We also using NAT gateway. So since again we are requesting through public subnet, but the requirement is not using public subnet. We need to use a private network. I think this option is eliminated now, right? Yes, since we are connecting through public subnet, this option is eliminated. Why? We need private subnet only. So this might be our answer. And the next one, ensure Lambda function is configured to run within the same VPC of database cluster within private subnet. So I think this is the one more option. So here, these two options, what this specifies is we need to put the Lambda function and Aurora DB under same VPC. So if they both resources present under the same VPC, then they can able to connect with each other, right? By using VPN connection, yes. So in order to allow the requests which are coming from Lambda function, this Aurora database cluster requires to allow the traffic, right? Yes. So that we are specifying from this by using the security group of Aurora DB cluster, we are allowing the incoming connection from the particular appropriate port from Lambda function. So these two are the options that we need to select. Even we can see another, that is even we can implement a VPC pairing between VPC containing this Lambda function and VPC containing this Aurora DB. So this is also correct, but maintaining maintaining our Lambda function in one VPC and maintaining our Aurora DB in another VPC and creating one more VPC pairing between them. I don't think it's a best choice, because if we maintain both Lambda and Aurora in same cluster, and then we can able to provide a direct connectivity between them. So this is the answer, and these two are the options. So I have already selected here. You can see yes. Now let's move on to next question. Now the next question is, an enterprise is looking to automate its data processing workloads on AWS. Okay. So whenever a .csv file is uploaded to specific bucket, then they want a serverless process to convert that file to Apache Parquet. So then they want a process to convert that file into Apache Parquet. Their goal is to minimize manual intervention and ensure that process is triggered only by uploading the .csv file. So what is the most efficient method for the data engineer to set up an AWS Lambda function that responds exclusively to uploaded CSV files into S3 bucket? So let us see the options which are available. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 options are there. We need to select only one. The first option is set up an event notification. So whenever an object is uploaded into S3, we are setting an event notification, that is put event, and applying suffix filter for finding whether the file is CSV or not. And so whenever if we find that file is CSV, whenever an event happened and that event also containing the file, that is the uploaded event also, the file will be .csv file, then we need to designate. That means we need to trigger this Lambda function ARN by using direct triggers, right? Yes. So this is what we do in real time. That is, whenever an object is uploaded into S3, first we need to identify that, right? So how we are identifying is, we're identifying by using events. So this is the particular S3 object create put event. By using this, we can able to identify that event. And after that, we can even able to apply some filters to suffix, and we can able to identify the file extension is .csv or not. So if the file extension is also .csv, then what we do? We need to trigger the destinated Lambda function, right? Yes. So we'll trigger the Lambda function. So this is the answer. This is the correct answer. And we can also see the other options. Configure S3 lifecycle policy to invoke Lambda function for CSV files added to S3 bucket. I don't think this is appropriate, because maybe it's appropriate, but this is the exact answer. So that's why this is the answer. Now let's consider other two as well. Establish a event bridge rule to trigger Lambda function on any S3 bucket put object with a specific filter on .csv file prefix. Maybe this also valid, but this becomes complex, right? Yes. So even without using this event bridge rule, we can even trigger this Lambda function directly, right? Yes. So for particular event which is stored under S3, which we are generating under S3, that we can directly trigger under this Lambda function. So when do we use this event bridge, sir? So if you want to trigger more than one, that is multiple services at a time, then you need to choose this event bridge. So what about the another option, that is a step function, state machine implementation, that starts with CSV file uploading to S3 and invoking to Lambda function as the initial step of workflow. So here we are doing both the things with step function. That's not the case. Actually, the question is, whenever we upload our data to S3 bucket, then we need to identify whether the data is CSV file or not. Then we need to trigger Lambda function, right? So this not comes under that case because we are implementing both manually. This is the case that comes under real-time implementation and solves this issue, right? Yes. Here the direct solution is there, that is whenever a object is uploaded to S3 bucket, then this event will be generated, and after generating this event, we are filtering every event based on the suffix. If the suffix is matched with this .csv file, then we triggering this lambda function and we are executing whatever the required logic that we want. So this is the exact answer. So this is the answer for this question. So now let's move on to another question. A data engineer needs to streamline a process. A data engineer needs to streamline a process where specific lambda function process data and subsequently triggers AWS Glue job. This automated workflow function should be simple to manage, fully integrated with AWS ecosystem. Which AWS service or feature should the data engineer use to orchestrate? We can say this orchestration as management, the sequence of actions with minimal administrative effect. So with minimal administrative effect, we need to do these things. That is a data, that is a data streamlining processing, streamlining a process with a specific lambda function and subsequent triggering of ETL glue. So that we need to implement. We have these four options. You can see. Yes. So the first option is configure AWS event bridge to trigger lambda function and then AWS glue job upon successful completion. So it's not the correct. You can see the third option. This is the correct one. I'm slightly going to the answer. That is, if you use glue triggers to initially trigger to lambda function and then glue in sequence, your job will be executed subsequently. You can see that is the correct answer. That is, we use glue to initiate lambda function and then we can also implement this glue jobs in sequence. You can also see the explanation, that is, this glue trigger allows you to schedule and run your ETL jobs in glue while typically use it for triggering your glue jobs directly. You can even run, you can also set up triggers to call your lambda function before or after your glue jobs. Using AWS Glue triggers provides a low management and overhead and manage, that is orchestration tasks to invoke your lambda function and glue. Since low management to trigger your lambda functions and glue, so this is the natively best solution for your question. And we can even schedule our ETL jobs and we can even run our lambda functions, trigger our lambda function before our ETL jobs, glue ETL jobs scheduling or after our glue jobs running. So now this is the answer. Let's move on to next question. An analytics team at retail corporation is looking to process the vast amount of transaction data. So let's say this retail corporation having a lot of transaction data. So what they are expecting to store that data in S3 using complex analytical queries. Now the team plans to use EMR with Apache Hive for batch processing needs. Now they require a meta management system that allows them to define, organize, and query the data structure. So what component should the team implement within the EMR environment to manage their metadata effectively and ensure compatibility with Hive? So I hope those who watched the previous video, they got this answer. That is, they need to use this Glue data catalog. So this you can able to identify by using simple keywords. Here, the keywords that you need to observe is, when do we use this Glue data catalog, sir? This Glue data catalog is used to store a centralized metadata management. For storing this metadata to define, organize, and query the data, we use this majorly we use this Glue data catalog. And by using this Glue data catalog, we can query the data. We can able to store the data, and after storing we can even able to query the data by using EMR, and even we can able to query by using Athena also. So that's why this Glue data catalog is used for the data storage and management purpose. It acts like a centralized metadata store. With minimal efforts, we can able to do the management of our data. So those are the keywords where you can able to identify this Glue data catalog is your answer. So why not this EMR file system, sir? If we use this EMR file system for storing your Hive metadata, then this may not provide you much, like we need to manage the underlying infrastructure like the storage, those things we need to manage. And here even it's not a direct process to query the data by using EMR. So it's even not a centralized metadata storage. We cannot able to access by using Athena. So that's why this is not preferred. Whereas coming to DynamoDB store, to store this data under DynamoDB, if we store our data under this DynamoDB, we cannot even query by using EMR processing. So that's one of the reason that we need to eliminate this DynamoDB for storing this data, since we need to query this data by using EMR, right? Yes. So if we comes under this RDS, we can able to store our data in this RDS and we can able to query by using these EMR clusters. But the only reason here is we need much more maintenance. We need much more maintenance if we use this RDS. So that's why the setup and maintenance. So in order to avoid that, to reduce our effort, we need to go for this Glue data catalog. So let's see the answer. This is the correct answer only. So I hope you understood this question as well. So now let's move on to next question. Now let's see another question. An analytics team frequently runs complex Athena queries on data sets stored in S3 bucket. With Glue data catalog serving as metadata repository, they have identified a slowdown in Athena queries plan and attribute it to excessive number of S3 partitions. So the team needs to enhance the query performance and reduce the time Athena take to query the plan. So how does it achieve, sir? How to improve the performance? So in order to improve the performance, they are expecting to partition the data. So if they partition the data efficiently, then they can able to query the data very easily. So for that, we have this option to provide the partition. That is Amazon Athena partition projection for dynamic partitioning based on common query patterns. And in order to run our query very efficiently on files, This parquet format of file is very good. If we use this parquet format of file, then it takes even half of the time compared to other CSV files. If we compare runtime between CSV file and parquet file, if we take large file, then you can see a large difference between them. These parquet files runs very fast compared to CSV files. So this is the one option that we need to select, that is a transform our data present in S3 bucket to parquet files. And the another option is we need to partition our data. So based on for dynamic partitioning based on our query platform. So these two are the correct answers. You can even see that. So those are related to this question. So I hope you also get one more question. That is a one more concept. So now let's see one more real-time scenario question. Here the question is, so they have already written an Athena query where this query only gets the data of particular customer only. But what they are required is they need to include all relevant customers data, not only particular customers data. So in that case, what statement do I need to implement? So for this, the answer is you need to add a left join. You need to add a left join with another table that lists all customers. So first it need to get all the customers. Then from all the customers, it need to select this query can pick one by one person customer ID, and then it will execute this query so that whatever the query we are executing, that will be executed on all our users, all our customers. So that's what the answer. You can add a left join with another table, then list all customers, ensuring inclusions of customers with zero interactions. So that is the answer. If we see the other options, they are just providing in place of this year is equals to 2023, we need to replace it with greater than or equals to 2023. This is not the option. If we replace it, then we get the result of particular customer in that particular year and greater than 2023. The question is not for that. So that's why this is not the answer. And if we can see another option, it will include subsequent queries of first selected distinct customer IDs from the interaction data, then find the interactions of those customers. So since it's also deviating from the question, this is also not the answer. Now let's see the next. That is introduce a case statement with some function to handle any null values in interaction column. So this is also not the thing. We need we need a all customers related interactions, right? So for that we need to add a left join with another table that lists all customers and shows the inclusion of customers with zero interactions. So you can see that is the correct option. So now let's move on to next question. Now the question is, a data engineer need to perform one-time extraction of a specific column from large data set in Parquet format stored in S3 bucket. So let's say you have some Parquet file stored in your S3 bucket. Now you are expecting to query that only one time. You're expecting to query that bucket only one time. So the requirement is accomplish this with minimal setup and execution time. So with minimal efforts, you need to do this. So which AWS service or feature, it may be service or feature, should the data engineer use to query the single column from Parquet file with least operational overhead? So if you see the labs under S3, then you can get the answer, that is select statement is there directly, you can use it. That is S3 select to run SQL queries. S3 select to run your SQL queries, that option is there. So by using that option, you can able to extract the required column from S3 objects. So this is the very simplified, that is directly from S3 management console. You can see query by using S3 select command. So that option is there. You can use that and directly query from there, so that your operational overhead or maintenance, or else you can say with least operations you can able to do this operation. If we compare other things like Athena, going to Athena, creating external table there, and again querying the data, so that might be a large thing compared to directly querying from S3. And coming to Redshift Spectrum, here also we are creating external tables, so that's why this is not preferred. You can see EMR cluster, that will be much more complex. So direct answer here is with less efforts. You can use directly from S3 console. You have an option, that is S3 select option is there under actions tab. You can use that to query your data by using S3 SQL select statements. So let's move on to next question. The question here is, a data engineer is tasked with setting up a schedule for running your Glue ETL jobs daily, where the exact timing of job execution is not critical. The primary goal is to minimize operational cost of your ETL job. So remember this point. We need to minimize the operational cost of our ETL job. So what configuration option should the data engineer choose to optimize? You can say minimize also, optimize or minimize cost without specific requirements on job completion times. So they don't have any requirement of job completion time, but the only requirement is optimizing the cost or minimizing the cost for this ETL jobs. So let's consider the options. Enable job bookmarking for AWS Glue job properties to ensure incremental data processing. If we do incremental data processing, then our jobs will run more, so will be cost more. So I don't think this will be the answer. And you can see select the job timeout option in Glue job properties and set longer duration to allow cost effective resource utilization. If we even utilize our resources effectively, then also my ETL jobs cost won't be reduced, right? Yes. So I don't think this also will be my answer. Now let's see the another option. Choose flex execution class. Choose flex execution class in AWS Glue job properties to leverage spot capacity for running your job. So I hope this is the answer. Why? Because we are using spot capacities for running our job. For running our job, what type of capacity we are using? We are using spot capacity. So compared to on-demand capacity, since we are using spot capacity, it might reduces our cost. So I hope this is the answer. This is the answer for us. So let's see one more option, that is a leftover thing. Apply job delay. Apply job delay within AWS Glue job properties to schedule execution during non-peak hours for potentially cost savings. So obviously, if we use this job delay, what happens is, so whatever the executed data is there, so only that will be executed in this AWS Glue. So like that, we just minimize, we just arrange the execution among my glue jobs. But here we are not reducing the cost. That means we are not reducing the execution effort. So, but if we compare to top, the spot instances, the spot capacities we are using, but here on-demand capacities are using. So that's why even we delay the job, then also even we implement a job delay, we will be charged for on-demand instances. If we use spot instances, our charge will be less. So in order to optimize our cost or else minimize the operational cost, we need to choose this spot capacity for running our jobs. That is choose this flex execution class. So you can see that is the correct option. What is that? Choose the flex execution class in glue job properties to leverage spot capacity for running your jobs. So I hope you got this question answer as well. Now let's move on to next question. Now let's see one more question, that is this. So whenever you're writing exam, then the simple trick here is you just read this question and try to identify the keywords and try to identify the answer. So now let's read the question. So after that, if you have any doubt between two options, then you need to see the scenario as well. So now let's read the question. What AWS service should the team use to efficiently manage the schema and ensure schemaless integration with Athena? We need to integrate with Athena for updated data queries. So in general, if we think regarding Athena, where do we query our data? In Glue data catalog, right? Yes. So you need to check for that option. You have that? Yes. So most of the scenarios, this will be your answer. So since you got Athena and data querying keywords and integration with Athena, so seamless integration with Athena, then if this is regarding storage, that is efficiently managing the schema. So schema management is nothing but storage. So we need to focus more on this Glue data catalog. So this might be your answer. If you compare to RDS, if we store our data in this and manage our schemas there, I don't think we need much more effect. That is, we need to provide much more management for providing and managing those RDS databases. Whereas coming to this Redshift spectrum, here also the same thing, but charges also more. So that's why this is the best option. For that, you can even read the full question. A data engineering team needs to manage and query continuously evolving data sets of customers' transactions stored in S3. They use Amazon Athena for querying and require an automated solutions to held schema changes in the data set. So if you have any data sets and if you are required any metadata storing metadata storage for schema management, then you need to focus on this Glue data catalog. So 90% this is the answer. So you can see this is the correct answer. So now let's move on to the next question. So that is one of the keyword, schema metadata management. For that, Glue data catalog. The company is integrating with a BI, that is a business intelligence tool, with their data warehouse hosted on SQL Server. The BI team requires regular data extractions to transformed and stored in S3 for further analysis. So they require data extractions to transform and store the data in S3 for further analysis. So the BI team needs a solution to manage this ETL process efficiently at low cost. They want to implement this ETL process efficiently at low cost. What is that process? Extracting the data, transforming the data, and storing, you can say loading or storing your data in S3. So what is that? That is nothing but ETL job. So this team, BI team requires a best efficient low cost solution for that. So for extracting, transforming and loading, we have Kinesis and Glue, right? Yes. So if we move it up, then we can see the answers. We have Glue, two options are there. We have batch option is there. So when do we use this batch? In order to process a task, we use this batch. So this will be eliminated. And we have data pipeline is also there. When do we use this data pipeline, sir? This data pipeline main purpose is to provide a pipeline between your storage and your compute. You can even pipeline your data from your on-premise to cloud as well. So now the question is, which AWS service or feature which is the most effective for managing or orchestrating your ETL pipelines that extracts data from Microsoft SQL, transform it and load it to S3. For that, you have an option that is Glue workflows. Why not this data brew? So if you use this data brew, when is for PII you use this data brew, personal identifiable information. Whereas for managing your ETL jobs, you need to use this workflow. So that is the correct option for this question. So now let's move to the next question. This question is, let's say I have a EBS provisioned IOPS. Let's say I have a EBS volume where currently it is stored in IO1 mode. Now I'm expecting to move that to IO2 mode based on my business need. Now, what is the better and the best minimal minimal operational effort choice? Minimal operational effort choice. What is the best minimal operational effort choice? So for this, we have four options. So among these, the best option is the last one. You can see here, we just implementing, we just modifying IO1 volume to IO2 through management console or CLI without even detaching that from our servers. So no downtime even there. Whenever we are moving our volume from one type to another type, that is IO1 to IO2. So that's why this option is preferred. So that's why this is the answer compared to others. If we compare the others, then what happens is we detach the volume and we create a, so in first volume, we copy the data from IO1 and we newly provision this, then we grab the volume that is detaching and attaching to the EC2 instance. IO1 is detached from EC2 and IO2 is attached to EC2. So since that much of operational overhead, we not choose this. You can see minimal operational effort. And we also have one more option that is provision IO2 and incrementally copy the data from IO1 using EC2 file copy tool and then detach and attach. So quite here also detaching and attaching. Let's see the third option that is storage gateway to facilitate data transfer from IO1 to IO2, then updating the instance utilities to new volume. So again here the same thing. We are placing this IO1 there. But in the last option, that is minimal operation, we are just changing this IO1 to IO2 from management console or CLI. So since less operational cost and less operational efforts and task achieved due to this step, so that's why this is the answer. You can see the correct answer also this only. So now let's move on to the next question. A data engineer at financial analysis firm is responsible for enriching the AWS based data lake with external financial data set. The firm requires regular updates of stock market and economic indicators from various data providers, which should be integrated seamlessly into their Amazon S3 data lake for further processing and analysis. So which AWS service should the data engineer use to inject for external financial data sets into data lake with minimal effort? So now the question is, they're having some financial analytics. They need to get the data from that and they need to inject the data. They need to integrate seamlessly with S3 and they need to integrate the data to this S3 and they need to further process. So for that, they need a integration tool with minimal effort, So these are the two keywords. With minimal effort, they need to inject the data. You can see external injecting of external data sets to data lake. So that data lake is S3. So with minimal effort, if you want to move your financial data sets directly to data lake, then the answer for that is data exchange. By using this AWS data exchange, you can subscribe to relevant data sets and directly import them to S3 data lake. So if you want any direct, that is if you want to inject the data from external financial data sets to data lake with minimal effort, then you need to choose this data exchange. If you use this, then you can able to subscribe to relevant financial data sets and directly import them into the S3 data lake. So we have other options as well, but compared to them, these are relevant to question. So that's why this is the correct answer. So now we just move on to the next question. So this is one more question on Redshift. We have a Redshift cluster and we have 4 nodes in our cluster. The data is distributed evenly. So what strategy would you implement to distribute? So what strategy? The final question they're asking is, what strategy would you implement to distribute your load across 4 nodes? Across 4 nodes, what strategy you use? So in event distribution, what happens is your data is distributed. That is, whole row will be distributed to one node, and then so like that, all your rows will be distributed evenly among all your nodes. So that's why when a person queries for particular row only many times, let's say many persons are querying to particular node, then what happens? Which node containing that row, that node will become hot pot, right? Yes. So that's what the issue came here. That is the data engineer observes peak loads. The query performance is suboptimal. When one node is constituently high CPU utilization, the other will be significantly underutilization. The team aim is to optimize this workload distribution across all nodes. So, what strategy the data engineer should implement to achieve this? For uniform distribution across all your nodes, the only option here is key distribution. So if you use key distribution, then what happens is, you can see that is the answer. If you use this key distribution, then your data is distributed. Your data is partitioned and then it distributed among multiple nodes. So whenever a query executes also, the load does not fall on a single node. It falls on multiple nodes. So that's why we need to prefer this key distribution for providing load on all your nodes equally. So this is the answer for that. So now let's move on to the next question. A digital market agency, so a digital market agency collects customer interactions data through various cloud platforms. So, and want to analyze the data using Redshift. So, how can we assume this? There are multiple cloud platforms are there. So, by using that cloud platforms, a digital marketing agency collects the information and analyzing that in Redshift. So, the data sourced from multiple software as service platforms now must be consolidated into S3 bucket before analyzing. So first we need to put the data under S3 where the data is initially present in multiple software as service providers platforms. Now the agency seeks a most straightforward and maintenance light method to import data to S3. So what they require, they need to import the data from software as service providing platforms to S3 with light maintenance. So these are the keywords. Software as service platforms to S3, they need to move the data and it's a maintenance is light. So in this case, you need to prefer app flow. So why app flow is used? In order to move your data from software as service platforms to S3 with light maintenance. These are the keywords. Light maintenance, moving your data from software as service to S3. So if you got those, then your answer 100%, 90% it will be app flow. You can see that is the correct answer. So now let's continue the question. Which AWS service or features should the agency use to streamline the transfer of data from SAS to S3 with minimal operation effort. So this by if you use this, then it can able to transfer, it can able to integrate software as service platforms to AWS services, and it can even get the app related data from software as service providers platforms to your storage services or AWS services like S3. It can even integrate multiple platforms like AWS related cloud platforms and software as service provider platforms as well. So for the data transfer in between them, this will take care of. With minimal operational effort from us, it will maintain all the operational effort. So that's why this app flow is the answer. So whenever you see software as service platforms to any AWS service data transfer with minimal operational effort, your answer must be app flow. So this is all about this. Now let's move on to the next question. Now, in order to analyze this question fastly, let's see this. So which feature should the team implement to enhance their query performance in Redshift? They need to enhance the query performance. Team need to enhance the query performance, and especially for frequently executed queries that joins multiple tables, they need to enhance the performance. Team needs to enhance the performance. Then what feature they need to use? So for that, there is already one feature. What is that? Query optimizer. If the team use this Redshift query optimizer with materialized views, then already whatever the pre-configured results, those are stored under this materialized views, then your performance will be raised. So in this way, your query performance you got if you query under Redshift. So that's why this Redshift query optimizer is your answer for this question. Here, the keyword is materialized view. It will store all these materialized views. So based on the results, those are previously created, it will use those results for executing the current queries and provides you the response very faster, that is provides you fast performance results. So if you use this query optimizer in Redshift, then you got high performance results. So now let's move on to the next question. So this is the correct answer itself. Yeah, let's move on to next question. Yeah, that's it. So these are the most coming intermediate level data engineer AWS associate level certification questions. If you can able to grab the concept from these questions, then you can even easily answer the questions which are comes under AWS Data Engineering Associate exam. So I hope this video is understanding to you and you got some knowledge from these videos and you got some concepts regarding how to solve real-time examples related to data engineering associate. I hope this video is useful to you. If you feel this video is useful, then please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching again. See you back in the next video with another interesting topic. Until then, bye bye, guys.